Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in India or outside. Today, in the series of conversation with social sector leaders, we have Raj. Raj is the co-founder at LAHI India. Thank you so much for joining us. Those who are watching this podcast, राज co-founder हैं लैंड हैंड इंडिया फाउंडेशन के जो वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग्स पे काम करते हैं स्टूडेंट के साथ अक्रॉस इंडिया. The org was founded in 2003 with Sunanda and Raj both co-founded this. उससे पहले राज was working with Citigroup as director, and then before that he was with Deloitte. So Raj has inside and outside both view of the sector. And the next 10-15 minutes, we would be just talking what is something that Lend a Hand is doing and how I or you or someone who's watching, you can contribute to the mission that Lend a Hand India has. And if you want to explore opportunity with Lend a Hand India, how you can explore that. So thank you so much, Raj. Welcome again.
Sure.
And you
Yeah.
help us understand the idea of Lend a Hand India. शॉर्ट में हम लाही बोलते हैं. कैसे स्टार्ट किया, कैसे आपके दिमाग में आया? सिटी ग्रुप में काम कर रहे थे, उससे पहले भी काम कर रहे थे डिलॉइट में, तो एकदम से सडनली
Yes, yes.
सेक्टर कैसे happened?
Yeah. No, thank you. Thanks, Mala. Happy to be here. I must say, Blend Hand India idea is actually of my three-fourth better half Sunanda, as you just mentioned. And I'm like a typical spouse claiming credit for, or typical husband rather, claiming credit for all the great work done by, our respective spouses, right? So basically, it was her idea. She comes from the social development background, having worked with Care India, with World Bank, with UN agencies, and otherwise. So she brings the chops. And I'm like a passive smoker. Ghar mein, if you're a passive smoker, then the whiff comes to you. Agar ghar mein koi smoker raha to, I think my entry into development sector is in the similar, fashion, right? And aspiration behind or inspiration behind Lend a Hand India has been that both of us sort of come from a lower middle class family. I was the first person to graduate from high school in my multiple generations extended family, having worked my way through during my engineering as LIC agent and otherwise. Similarly, Sunanda, my three-fourth better half, also actually worked as executive assistant, admin assistant during her college days and paid her way through. So I think we both come from that the school of thought that we have to help ourselves, we have to make our own destiny, but it can't happen without many people who played a significant role in whatever we are doing today. So how about doing something for the folks who needed some help now, right? So that was the beginning of Lend a Hand India, and particularly vocational education in schools and otherwise. That was more from the thought that our education is very rote method, not practical, not skill based and otherwise. I'm an engineer myself. Should never trust me even with a screwdriver, even though I have an engineering degree, and I'm sure many engineers like me are like that only. So हम सबको डिग्री तो मिल जाती है, लेकिन we are not sort of ready for the real life, right? In the process. So the idea has been to how do we bridge the gap, and that is the genesis of Lend a Hand India. Now have been at it for last 20 years to do that.
ग्रेट. एंड थोड़ा सा अगर आप जो वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग के अराउंड काम कर रहे हैं स्कूल्स में या इकोसिस्टम में, उसके बारे में अगर आप थोड़ा सा बात करें, कहाँ काम कर रहे हैं, व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ इंटरवेंशन यू आर डूइंग, किस तरह से वो चेंज होता है?
Yeah. So basically, the idea is that how do we integrate skill education as part of the curriculum in academics? In that, normally, if you look at it, there are 3-4 things about vocational education so far that people think it is only for the backbenchers, it is only for the school dropouts, it is only for those who are not interested in academics and otherwise. I think our attempt has been that skill education or vocational education can be a life skill as well. All of us should know how does gardening work, how does electrical wiring work, how to fix small things. All of us should develop dignity of labor, that हाथ से काम करने में कोई बुराई नहीं है. In fact, in the age of AI now, these are the skills which are going to survive actually. Your so-called white collar jobs are going to be no collar jobs, going forward now. Secondly, also, so many things which are learning in the school, हम क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं? वो हमें पता नहीं चलता, we don't know why we are doing it. So how do I connect what we are learning in the school with real life as well? So for example, if you learn gardening in the school, you will learn botany better, right? Or if you learn say electrical wiring, electricity, थोड़ा shock भी लगा हाथ को, तो आपको ohms law आप जिंदगी में नहीं भूल पाओगे ना वैसे. So I think this whole applied learning actually is very very critical in the school sense, which can lead to more engagement in the school, attendance in the school. Also, it can give you आपके career को थोड़ी दिशा मिल सकती है कि मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है, what do I like, what I don't like, and make some informed career choices as well. And of course, getting you ready for the life, right? So the way it works is that we'll go to a school, we'll set up a lab or a workshop, and the students will undergo exposure to a variety of skills. When I say exposure, they'll actually do something. It's all hands-on, practical. So they're exposed to gardening, food processing, healthcare, finance, fashion design, mechatronics, tourism. You name the sector, right? That's what happens till grade 10, and then in grade 11. They will choose one sort of skill to specialize in. And abhi tak ye subject optional tha. It was optional in the scheme of marks. But we're very happy to share that with National Education Policy 2020, it is going to become 100 marks compulsory subject as part of the schema with 110 hours and board exam and everything up to grade 10, which is a huge leap forward. Actually, और इसलिए हमें काफी सारे लोगों की जरूरत पड़ने वाली है. So we are expanding the team, given कि there are 300,000 high schools in India, and now this is where it needs to sort of go, and that's the purpose of this podcast today.
Thank you. And very interesting, Raj, something that you're doing, and then someone that building that proof of concept, and then NEP may integrate hona, and then going to these schools across India. Very, brilliant stuff that you and team is doing. कौन कौन से states में अभी आप काम कर रहे हैं currently अगर लाही का presence
So
देखें?
we are working almost across 20 plus states across India. There are two models in which we work, Mala. One is that we implement the program ourselves, and that's about 150 schools, which we call internally as a direct implementation, where end-to-end implementation is happening by LAHI India. And those schools will work as our demonstration center, our learning center, our innovation lab, and otherwise. And then we work with the state governments across India, in that. And this started in 2014, where the staff members, team members of LAHI in India are deployed in the Department of Education, typically Samura Siksha, in the state offices, where they will help the state to formulate the policy as well as execute the policy on vocational education in the country, and all. And through that, we currently have almost 80 plus staff members deployed across India in Department of Education, and close to over 20,000 plus schools are what is being managed, there. Of course, in those schools, the actual implementation on the ground will happen to third-party agencies, which are retained by the government directly, and we are sort of the technical and project management support partner there. So in a way, that has been our scaling up strategy, that the organization did not scale, the cause needs to scale, right, and grow, and otherwise. And that's how we have been able to achieve the mission that we have in front of us.
Right. I think one that we can learn, and those youth who are watching this podcast, what Raj mentioned is the system adoption model where they are not sending people on each school versus they're working with state in PMUs, putting people in PMUs who are expert, designing things for scale. So that is something
Yes.
that is emerging, and Raj and team at Lahi is wonderfully doing from 2014. Raz, say those who are watching want to explore career with Lahi. Now, there are programmatic role or maybe functional role, and maybe in those
Yeah.
there are different level. What sort of role generally Lahi team keep on looking, and what sort of locations, and what sort of skill, knowledge, attitude? If you can talk
Yeah.
about, also will help how youth can
Yes. Yes.
opportunity at Lahi.
Sure. So I think we'll speak about the skill or what we expect from people first, right? Because I think, yeah, if the candidate is good, we make a role for them, role for him or her, it doesn't matter. So first and foremost, we are always looking for the candidate. Uh, is he or she able to take initiative? Risk taker hai kya? Basically, we are looking for entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial ability and otherwise. And I frankly think that no job is a rocket science except the rocket science itself, probably. So if the person is willing, then वो तो 6 महीने में सीख जाएगा, whatever it is. It's not that complicated, whatever we are doing. But what is critical is that being able to take initiative, being entrepreneurial nature, being able to handle ambiguity. यानी मैं तो बहुत बार ये करता हूँ कि किसी ने जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन पूछा, तो आई टेल दैट पर्सन कि एवरी मॉर्निंग आई सेंड यू वन ऑन व्हाट्सएप एंड ऑल. Because I think in our sector, in social sector, is very, very critical to be comfortable with ambiguity, right? Because 95 or 99% of the things which you don't control. So every day might be a different job, all together, right? In this, so and sort of being able to run on their own, because in Atlanta and India, we really don't believe in micromanaging, per se, giving independence to the to whoever are the team member, and they sort of go with that, right? So I think these are like overall qualities or overall attributes that we look for whoever is willing to join lend a hand India. Now, types of roles, I mean, they're across the board actually, right from programmatic role where you are working on the field, working in the schools directly, or you are helping to develop the curriculum, develop the content for something. Or it can be with the team which works with the government. As I said, we deploy our people in the state offices and very high level of government engagement which happens with the government there. We are also looking for people in technology, a huge investment we are making as well. Looking for people in data science or MEL, the monitoring, evaluation, learning roles too. And overall, also we always have something new coming up at lend a hand in terms of ideas. And in fact, my team always says कि Raj को तो hourly basis पे ideas आते रहते हैं and all that. So we're always always looking for somebody who will take this idea and run with it, right? It may work, it may not work, but I think trying out that innovation culture, and we feel very fortunate, Mala, that even after 20 years of work, we still operate like a startup, rather than resting on our track record and resting on our कि अभी तो बहुत काम कर लिया. But how do you keep that fire in the belly going? And being a startup even after 20 years is what major focus of Lend a Hand India is. And I think we are looking for anyone who will contribute to such sort of environment and mission going forward.
Really like the focus on innovation after 20 years also. I mean, that's what I think today Gen Z or maybe millennial who want to explore opportunity with Lahi could be a space if you really like trying something new while working every day. There are roles. We would be putting the career page link also of the Lend a Hand
Yeah,
India's career page in the description in the podcast. Do check out. That's
sure.
also the starting. So there are people who are in undergrad or postgrad preparing, say, in doing their engineering, doing their masters in development or using social work,
Yes,
and they want to transition or they want to start their first job in the non-profit ecosystem, and Lahi being
yeah.
one of them. What is the starting stipend salaries generally, if you can just talk about that as well? And how does that career pathway looks like for a college graduate, say they join associate,
Mm.
or what is the position that you call internally, and then what are their career pathway looks like over the years?
Yeah, yeah. I would say normally the salary range for a fresher, fresher in the sense that those who have completed a degree and master's kiya, whether it is ISDM, whether it is TIS, like a typical institutions that Glenda and India has been recruiting from. The salary will range anywhere from 45,000, 50,000 a month to 60K or something. It all depends on, but once again, that is just a rough range to begin with, and all. For, I mean, somebody who doesn't have any work experience
Mm-hmm.
at all, right? But we really give a lot of emphasis on what have they done during undergrad, what have they done during masters. The only having the degree is not the demonstration of intent, in that, right? In that, लेकिन उसके अलावा क्या किया? That is what, because otherwise तो बहुत लोग भी कर रहे हैं,
I can sense what
post
you
grad.
mean here. You mean someone who's part of the college clubs or doing internships while they are studying, etc. Is that something that you mean?
Absolutely, because I don't think, and again, as I said, Mala, it comes from my the founder's own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe they should not be nothing like a full-time student, in that, right? And the learning and the life experiences happen as much outside of the four walls of school or a college as inside the classroom, right? And वो जो initiative लेके करेगा, that is what we are looking for. In fact, I would suggest people to visit our homepage for the careers and all that. And the type of questions where we are asking, have you ever been laid off? Nothing wrong with being laid off, but how did you bounce back, right? In that, have you run away from your home and माँ बाप की इच्छा के विरोध में कुछ किया है क्या? Have you started earning, making some money even though your financial situation did not require to, and otherwise. So as you can see, Mala, that we are always looking for people who are going beyond what is necessary to achieve degree or a certificate or anything like that, right? So that is at the core of it, actually, I would say, in that. And that's why the innovation kind of structure we are encouraging. In fact, मेरे पास तो जब भी कोई आइडिया लेके आता है तो ऐसे कि आइडिया आपका है तो आप ही एग्जीक्यूट करो and all that, right? We don't want only people की ये होना चाहिए वो होना चाहिए, but not having the sort of bent to armchair critic नहीं बनना है and all that. नहीं तो हम तो बहुत बोल सकते हैं ये होना चाहिए, but not having our skin in the game. And we are perfectly okay with failure, trying out, because unless we all know that 10 आइडिया में से 2 ही आइडिया काम करते हैं.
Mm-hmm.
But I will not know which two unless I try out all the 10, right? So I should be comfortable that will be sort of, we'll have to deploy resources to try out ideas and otherwise, so that is one part. And career path by itself, Mala, I have a feeling कि अगेन ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि 2 साल में मैं मैनेजर बनूंगा, 2 साल उसके बाद सीनियर मैनेजर बनूंगा, उसके बाद ये बनूंगा. I think you won't make your career path in that, right? And somebody may take only 6 months to get promoted, and somebody may not be promoted for 3 years as well, because I don't think the ability and the competence is related to number of years of experience in that, right? Because I think there is a misnomer on that फ्रंट की मुझे तो 15 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है और इसको तो 3 का ही है, तो इसका क्या उसका क्या. तो आई वुड से कि करियर पाथ इज I would expect, and we expect our people to define their own career path, and all that. And where I'm coming from, Mala, here is that I used to work with Citibank, and I worked there for 7 to 8 years. Every 2 years we are supposed to expected to change our job within Citibank and all that, right? कि अगर 2 साल से ज्यादा किसी एक जॉब में है तो people will say something is wrong, because after 2 years you stop innovating, you become sort of a resident of that particular role, right? And all that. So every time I have to, even though I'm working with Citibank, every 2 year I'm forever in interview mode, कि अरे मुझे वापस 1 साल में तो नया जॉब चाहिए, and all that. And I think that really kept you up, right? To look for something, to develop your network, to try out variety of things. In the process, I ended up doing 4 different jobs in completely different areas over 8 years, right? And that is what makes life exciting as well, right? So in terms of career path, I will not go down the line ki पहले आप क्या एसोसिएट बनोगे, फिर सीनियर एसोसिएट बनोगे, फिर असिस्टेंट मैनेजर बनोगे, फिर डिप्यूटी मैनेजर. आई थिंक ऑल दोज आर वेरी, आई मीन वो रहता है, इट इज मोर फ्रॉम द स्ट्रक्चर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. बट आई विल रियली रिक्वेस्ट पीपल टू फोकस ऑन कि अगर आपने कुछ जल्दी किया तो उभर के आओगे आप, राइट? बिकॉज एवरीबडी इज लुकिंग फॉर people who take initiative, people who are raising their hands कि मैं ये भी कर सकता हूँ, वो भी कर सकता हूँ. And in this age of AI and technology, the more you are willing to experiment with, what you are doing, the better off you would be in the career, in your career progression, right? Going forward. And बहुत सारा initiative आप पे रहेगा.
So I really like, because what you say takes the whole ecosystem or the whole org to adapt, and LAHI is doing that. Really, really appreciate you leading this. Also, we know a couple of folks at LAHI, and I can say those who are watching, the retention is very, very high at Lende and India. So, and retention happen only when there are system policies, opportunities, and growth is there. And Raz and Sunanda have been driving this. Maybe I'll say the crazier space with innovation and then maybe scale and then government and PMU and then the work with student at scale. Those who know know Raz, but those who don't know Raz is a great leader in the ecosystem, very grounded and speaks the common sense, which is not common these days. But Raj have
Thank
been
you.
very grounded. Bring humor. If you follow him on LinkedIn, you'll find what sort of insights and humor he brings. So do follow Raj on LinkedIn also, and then you'll find amazing content there also. Raj, one final advice that we wanted to hear from you. One advice that you wanted to give to youth who want to explore career in social sector and youth like us who have been in the sector and maybe navigating, looking for their next role. If you want to give one sort of crisp advice basis your experience in the ecosystem, what might help us?
Sure, sure. First of all, thanks, Mala, about mentioning about LinkedIn post and all that. I think that is what got me the podcast today because when एक बार LinkedIn post किया था कि मुझे कोई बुला नहीं रहा है podcast पे कोई panel पे बुला नहीं रहा है तो I think Mala and Sanjana have been very kind कि चलो इनको भी बुला ही लेते otherwise रोते रहेंगे ऐसे but thank you
आप कह रहे हो
in that.
आपको स्लोट्स लेना मुश्किल है हमारे लिए
So, I think advice will be a very, strong word. What I will say, share what I think, as of today. I think cannot be a better and exciting time than joining the social sector today, social development sector, right? In terms of, uh, for couple of reasons. I mean, few reasons. एक तो the type of variety of opportunities which are there, right? Because earlier हमें social sector यानी वो झोले वाला, इधर उधर घूम रहे हैं ऐसे वैसे. That is what normally we will sort of, think about, right? In that. So I think that is definitely one thing that the variety of opportunities which are there, number of locations which are there now, right? Urban, rural, semi-rural, even that is also happening very well now. What I would say is that being open to experimentation, in that sense, because I think the sector is really ripe for innovation and fresh blood and fresh thinking now to sort of go about it and otherwise. And I think application of new ways of thinking, whether it is application of technology, whether it is application of the community-based approach, and and now entire Gen Z and otherwise. I mean, those are the really dominating factors which are going to be there going forward, and all that. And one can think that large application of those things required. And I would say when NGO sector is becoming more and more open now, in that, right? नहीं तो person like me बाल सफेद हो गए तो हमको लगता है कि we all know everything, and otherwise तो बहुत बार होता है वैसे. But I think NGO sector is opening up very well now to welcome fresh talent, welcome fresh, way of thinking, and developing sort of models which haven't been tried sort of so far, given the resource constrained environment we are in, but at the same time global and connected environment that we are in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raj, for this conversation
Sure.
and insights around the work at Lahi. Those who are watching will be sharing the links in the description and look forward to have the next guest soon. Thank you so much, Raj, again for joining
Sure.
us and for your time and
My
insights. Thank
pleasure.
you.